What if the future of dressage is not something we have to fear, but something we can actually feel hopeful about? Because in a sport that is constantly evolving, where conversations around horse welfare, judging standards, and the very definition of harmony are becoming more intense, there are individuals working quietly, thoughtfully, and with real integrity behind the scenes. And one of those individuals is Bill Warren. As a respected FEI judge and currently officiating at the FEI World Cup, Bill Warren is not just observing the direction of dressage, he is actively helping shape it. And that should genuinely excite anyone who cares about the sport, because his perspective is not rooted in trends or pressure. It is rooted in understanding, in experience, and most importantly, in a deep respect for the horse. To understand why Bill Warren's voice matters so much right now, we need to understand where dressage currently stands. This is a sport at a turning point. On one hand, we are seeing some of the most extraordinary horses the world has ever produced. These horses have movement that is bigger, more elastic, and more expressive than anything we saw decades ago. On the other hand, we are also seeing growing concerns about tension, about training methods, and about whether the sport is drifting away from its classical roots. And in the middle of it all sits the judge, the person who decides what gets rewarded, the person who ultimately defines what good dressage looks like in the arena. And that is why Bill Warren's presence, especially at something as influential as the FEI World Cup, is so important. Because he represents a standard, a mindset, a commitment to getting it right. When Bill Warren speaks about harmony, he does not treat it as a vague or romantic idea. He speaks about it with clarity, with precision, with the understanding that harmony is not optical in dressage. It is the entire point. Harmony is when the horse is truly at ease. It is when the energy flows forward without resistance. It is when the rider's aids are nearly invisible and the communication between horse and rider becomes seamless. And perhaps most importantly, harmony is when the horse looks like it wants to be there. That willingness, that softness, that quiet acceptance is something you cannot fake, and Warren knows that. What is so encouraging is that he actively looks for these qualities when he judges. He does not get distracted by exaggerated movement or overly dramatic expression. He looks deeper. He asks the question that truly matters. Is the horse comfortable, connected, and confident? And having a judge who prioritizes that is something the sport desperately needs. One of the most fascinating aspects of Bill Warren's perspective is his comparison to Barbra Streisand. At first, it might seem like an unexpected reference, but the more you think about it, the more it makes perfect sense. Streisand is known for her incredible control, her technical precision, and her powerful stage performance. Her performances are undeniably impressive. But there is also something else there, an intensity, a level of control that can sometimes feel almost overwhelming. And Warren uses this analogy to highlight something incredibly important in dressage. Because modern dressage can sometimes look like that. Highly controlled, highly precise, technically brilliant, but occasionally just slightly too tight, just slightly too managed. And Warren's point is not to criticize that level of skill. It is to remind us that true greatness feels natural. It feels effortless. It feels like the horse is expressing itself, not being directed every second. That distinction is subtle, but it is everything. And having a judge who understands that nuance is incredibly valuable. Now, what makes Bill Warren particularly compelling is that he is not stuck in the past. He does not reject the evolution of dressage. He recognizes that the sport has changed. He acknowledges that modern dressage brings a level of athleticism and expression that is truly extraordinary, and he appreciates that. But at the same time, he does not allow that evolution to override the fundamentals. He continues to emphasize that classical training skill is not a relic of the past, but as a living, essential framework. Rhythm, relaxation, connection, impulsion, straightness, collection. These are not just theoretical concepts. They are the building blocks of correct training. And what is so encouraging is that Warren actively reinforces these principles through his judging. He is not just talking about them, he is applying them. It is easy to underestimate the influence of a judge, but in reality, judges shape the sport more than almost anyone else. Because riders respond to what gets rewarded, trainers adapt their methods based on what scores well. Breeders make decisions based on what is winning. And all of that traces back to judging. So when you have someone like Bill Warren, someone who values harmony, relaxation, and correctness, those values begin to ripple outward. They begin to influence how horses are trained, how riders ride, how the next generation approaches a sport. And that is incredibly powerful. It means that good judging does not just reflect the sport, it improves it. One of the most important and encouraging aspects of Bill Warren's approach is his awareness of horse welfare. Because at the end of the day, dressage is not just about performance, it is about the horse. And Warren understands that true harmony cannot exist without genuine well-being. He looks for signs of relaxation. He notices when a horse is comfortable in its contact. He pays attention to whether the movement is flowing or forced, and that matters. Because when judges reward horses that look happy, relaxed, and confident, it sends a clear message. That is what good dressage looks like. That is what should be the goal. And that is exactly the kind of message the sport needs. Right now, as Bill Warren judges at the FEI World Cup, all of these ideas are being put into practice on one of the biggest stages in the world. This is where the sport is showcased at its highest level, where the combinations compete, where the standards are set, and knowing that someone with Warren's mindset is part of that process is genuinely exciting. Because it means that the values he represents, harmony, correctness, and respect for the horse, are being upheld at the very top of the sport. And that has a global impact. It influences what riders aim for, what audiences admire, and what the sport moves towards next. Dressage is often described as being at a crossroads, and in many ways that is true. But crossroads are not just moments of uncertainty, they are also moments of opportunity. And when you have individuals like Bill Warren involved, people who understand both the tradition and the future of the sport, it becomes possible to move forward in a positive direction. It becomes possible to celebrate expression without sacrificing relaxation, encourage progress without abandoning principles, create performances that are both impressive and genuinely harmonious. And that is something worth being excited about. At its core, dressage is about partnership. It is about trust. It is about creating something that looks effortless, even though it is anything but. And knowing that judges like Bill Warren are there, watching for that, valuing that, and rewarding that, should give the entire dressage community a sense of confidence. Because it means the heart of the sport is still being protected. It means the fundamentals still matter. And it means the future of dressage is not just evolving. It is evolving in the right direction. And honestly, that is something to be genuinely excited about.